we'll start with this noise for the audio. I'm joined today by multiple US champion in the time trial and the road race. He's ridden as a pro for how many years now?
Depends what you call the start.
As a full-time rider for how many years?
Well, definitely full-time rider since I dropped out of college. That was 15 years ago.
Yep. So 15 years. Teams like BMC, CCC, Human Powered Health, and now Q36.5. Joey Rosskopf, welcome to Train Like a Monk.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Set the scene for us. Where are we?
We're in Zagreb, Croatia.
Yep.
About to finish up the 6-day tour of Croatia.
What makes tomorrow special for you, I guess?
Tomorrow should be my last race ever.
Yep.
Apart from whatever kind of Grand Fondo I sign up for next year for fun, for the experience of it. But yeah, we're in October. It's my last year. This looks like the last race.
Yep.
Here we are.
Pretty glamorous one to go out on. So just sum up the tour so far from our perspective.
Yeah, hopefully we can race tomorrow without rain jackets. It's been a few days of shortened stages, dodging flooded areas, racing in,
And
less than ideal weather, but it's fine.
How's our team going, numbers-wise, at this point?
3 of us left in the big camper bus.
We've got three riders left of our 7 starters.
10 staff or whatever we have. It's a good ratio.
We had a bit of gastro, bit of a cold, and Jimmy decided about 5Ks into one of the stages to make the transition into another sport. But I
had a similar thought.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a rough week that way, but no, it's been some good times in amongst all of that. So starting, usually I would ask, what are you training for? What's the plan for training after this?
That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure out how often I can justify riding.
So
not quite as it.
Paint the picture of the scene at home for you at the moment.
I've got a couple small kids, 1.5 years old and 3 years old.
Yep.
They are very active and very physical with us and with each other, but they do go to school now, so we have a lot of time during the day.
Yeah.
But I want to do things with them. I want to stop ditching my wife every other week and split the duties, and
so you still
I will ride for sure.
Yeah, you won't be someone that, because you hear the stories of people that say, I'm not touching a bike for 10 years after I retire.
No, I like cycling.
Yeah.
Even more when I join shop rides or other people on bikes, because everyone is happy on a bike.
Yeah.
Except when when you're around professional riders who are a little bit spoiled and you're at the back of the bunch suffering, then everyone's kind of bitchy. But in general, everyone is happy on a bike, and I want to be a part of that, and that brings a lot of good things to my life.
Yeah, I think.
And I want a reason to go out.
That'll be
every couple days.
Probably a big change in terms of there's always that pressure. It's always funny because when I explain to people what I do that aren't cyclists, you'd get a lot of similar conversations in the US, and the response when you actually give a bit of a description is, that must be the coolest life ever, so relaxed, all you have to do is ride your bike every day. And they are completely correct, because that is actually all we have to do. But when there's this race situation, this performance pressure for every race, there is actually some downsides to that. And yeah, if you now get the opportunity to ride your bike without those downsides of having the pressure, having the performance anxiety, having to ride in conditions and situations like we've been in the last few days, that'll be a nice change, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. In some senses, it's kind of a gravy train. I mean, we've all wanted this life and being able to race and be on a professional team.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's pressure. It's a big business.
Yep.
There's a lot of pressure behind it.
Yep.
It will be a bit kind of a relief to just ride to stay healthy.
Yep.
The only physical condition that will matter is just to be healthy,
Yeah.
not the performance pressure.
And you and I this year have had a fair bit of, well, the last 2 years I think with we've had similar programs, I guess, moving around, traveling a lot, and the one of the things that makes it really difficult is just that constant travel, being on the limit, and your body, you just get sick all the time.
Yeah,
That
you
makes
always
it
want
so
to
hard.
maximize as much as you can do in training, but it's a balance. It's
Yep.
tricky.
Yep.
You even find out might not even know how close to the limit you are until you're
Till it's
sick.
too late. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're sick again and again and again.
Yeah. So speaking of changes from when you finish your career, before I get into the usual questions, I just wanted rather than finishing your career, I'd like to just talk about what was the biggest change since you've started your career. And I'm sure there's been many, but like if you could just pick one change that's the biggest one, probably putting you on the spot here because there's a lot, but from 15 years ago to now, the change in training.
Yeah, I think you hear about it a lot, but nutrition, yeah, obviously the effort. I mean, everything is just evolving constantly, but there used to be space for certain types of riders, especially, if not all, to basically just do the hours on the bike. And that was nearly enough.
Yeah. So in training, you're just getting the hours in.
Yeah.
Because I hear about this all the time too. And we've got directors from an era previously that talk about using the racing to get into shape. And like, oh, you need a race in the legs to come into this race.
Sometimes it helps, but I think for me it only helps when I am already really close to the top of what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Because you absorb everything, all the exertion at the race very well and assimilate and can take one more step up before you're fucked for the next month and you have to reset your cycle of peaking. But I mean, you can kind of be at the top for a couple months. It's not like an immediate downfall.
Yeah. And did you always in these teams have coaches? Like, did you have a long-term coach outside of the teams? I know nowadays, probably recently, it's always been within the team, but
I always had a coach within the team.
yeah.
At least, yeah, on every professional team. Well, save for the 2 years on human-powered health. But
And then you were self-coaching, or you had an external coach?
I had an external coach.
Yeah.
But it was someone who had worked for CCC, so
Okay.
we already had a relationship.
Yeah.
It was not my same coach. For 6 years on BMC and CCC, I had the same coach.
Okay. And then has there been big changes coming onto this team in the kind of work you're doing in training, or it's mostly similar, just slight differences?
Yeah, there was a big change last year with Carlos, the head coach of this team. And actually, I was missing him a bit this year. And I should have just stuck to what I learned from him, I would say. But it was overwhelming at some points last year because Carlos knows about just about every way you can improve your health and your physical performance.
Yep.
I mean, train on the bike is a small part of it, but it was like every type of activation and stretching and core and gym work was a huge part of it, and I let that fade off this year and I paid for it because it wasn't really part of my daily program on Training Peaks anymore with a new coach, which I am fully responsible for not. I mean, I know what I did last year, and I probably could have incorporated some of that with what I was doing this year. But I think Carlos's approach is very close to what most people are doing.
Yeah.
in some senses, it's also keeping you pretty healthy because it's like your whole body is like activated.
Yeah.
I had more strength and less little niggles and pains because there was like a lot of things off the bike as well.
Yeah.
The gym was important, and I basically did it randomly as a hobby forever until last year.
Yeah.
When I
And
started
then-
doing it consistently, and that was
Yeah.
the
Okay.
biggest change. And at this point, I can say that was probably the biggest thing that helped me improve.
Yeah.
And why I was a little better last year than this year.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I think, yeah, definitely when I came into the sport at this level, I don't think the gym was as big a thing as it has become now. And you don't see probably the pros talking about it as much, but I think, the vast majority are doing it. It used to just be, from my understanding, sprinters would get in the gym and just do massive squats and deadlifts to improve their sprint power.
Mm-hmm.
And then climbers would try and avoid it, whereas now it just seems like you don't have a choice. If you want to be strong, even as a climber, you have to be able to like push crazy watts now. You have to be strong enough to be able to do those crazy watts for a long period of time without getting any injuries. So
Yeah, it was really interesting. And from the way Carlos and the people that he has, studied with and done research with, they feel pretty certain that it helps endurance in general. It's not. It doesn't matter if you want to sprint better or not. It might not even, depending on the way you do it, it might not even improve your sprint.
Yeah.
But the way they could test it, they saw gains after hour 3 on the bike. So it's like majorly affecting the endurance. If you
and the
don't
fatigue
see any
resistance.
benefit doing like a 3-hour trainer ride until you do a power test after hour 3, and then you see the difference between the gym group and the non-gym group, and that was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, and for us,
And you would never feel that jumping on the bike for an hour or 2.
Yeah, and for us, after hour 3 is when it really matters. Well, the last few days we've had a few 2-hour races because there was some floods, but usually it's after hour 3. All right, I'm going to get into the usual questions.
Okay.
Favorite training session?
Well, apart from a soul ride, obviously I like riding.
Yeah.
But I like having something to do, actually.
Yep.
Like something to fill the time on a 30-minute climb.
Yep.
I like to do the climbs, but maybe like a lactate clearance type of effort.
So
I used to have a coach that would call it fartlek, but I'm not sure it's exactly the same.
similar to over-unders, right?
Yeah.
So you're going over your critical power or your FTP, and then you're going under but not completely off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have kind of a base tempo that is somewhere under your threshold, and the accelerations or the effort, the higher power is, I don't know, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute.
Yep.
Maybe a minute and a half, and then settle back into a pretty steady pace.
And you're doing
super easy, but
those in like blocks of 20 then? 20 minutes, that is?
Yeah,
I guess.
15 minutes, 20 minutes. If I just go to the top of the climb often.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really struggling.
And
if it's hard, if I feel like I'm doing my threshold to hold like the tempo that is under threshold on a good day, then I keep it shorter.
Yes.
It's like I don't need to be out there trying swing and trying.
That's a
if
really
it all
good
feels
point.
like threshold, then I think
it's a really good point, because I think people don't really understand how much those zones change literally by the day.
Yeah.
Like some days you just go out there and you can't. Like I had in a race yesterday, like my threshold was, I don't know, 40 or 60 watts lower than it would be on a good day, and like you can't just decide I'm going to ride at my good day threshold and I should be able to do it, therefore I can. Like some days you just don't feel that good and you have to
ideally
adjust.
Good, but
and then so if we're talking about that session or any session, what's your favorite loop then? Like what would you do that session on?
There's a city called Sant Hilari that's like at 800 or 900 meters. It's just outside of Girona. Well, it takes like an hour and a half to get there probably from any direction, but it's just a destination to climb to. And there's at least 5 roads up to it.
Yeah.
So, and each climb is 20 to 30 minutes. So
you just
loop over, down a new side, up a new side, down a new side, up it. You can do it 3 times by going up and down all different roads and then head home. And it's like three 20 to 30 minute climbs. You can accumulate as much as you want of any type of effort. And it's all, you can fit it in 5 hours or less.
Yeah.
Get your,
Super popular out there, and you also never get cars. Well, yeah, you get a few cars, but really there's barely any traffic once you're out.
Yeah, it's not
that
bad.
day. Yeah. Now, if you are there in summertime in Girona, those climbs are very busy, but just with cyclists.
Yeah, that's true.
There's cyclists everywhere, but
there's a gas
fun.
station I usually stop after my last climb. There's a gas station at the top, and almost always run into somebody.
Yeah.
Filling up, buying a Coke.
Yeah. What's your go-to when you're at the gas station then?
Oh, if I'm really not in a hurry, there's a different bakery up there that's open all day, and I just go get a sandwich and a Coke.
Yeah.
Ham and cheese sandwich and a Coke. If I feel some bit of pressure or want to keep it moving, I just get like a Coke and a double Snickers or something, and
that'll get you home.
Get it down, and
it's mostly downhill home from there anyway.
Yeah,
so
it is.
You're pretty safe. Going into the less nice stuff, what's your least favorite session?
There was this one that I often had to modify because it had me. I think I did a pretty decent lactate test at some training camp. It must have been in January. That
this year or last year?
This year.
Yeah.
They got these zones set as they are, but there was a session that was almost never worked for me, and I did it successfully once as prescribed, and it was like close to my best all-time 10-minute power.
Right.
It wasn't there, but it was close to it when I had gone absolutely maximum on fresh legs for 10 minutes, and I was supposed to do it a couple times, and it's like, this can't be right.
What's the session?
So it was torque, but also focused on cadence changes. You probably had a similar...
Yeah, I think I know the one. And
I always called it like a torque over. It's not an over-under. It was like...
yeah, I know the one now. It's like 6 minutes, then 4 minutes. Or is it the one where...
there was 2, actually.
There's a 6 minute, 4 minute one, and then the 2 minutes, 1 minute out of the saddle.
And then 1 minute higher power. You had to switch from slow cadence to really
spinning.
high cadence. But then you only go back to...
Threshold still.
Every time it had me going back to threshold, and usually on the day it was over my threshold.
Yeah.
So... And it would be like 12 to 16 minutes at a time.
Yeah. See, I like that session, but I clearly just didn't do as well in the lactate test because
it was too much.
I found it okay to do it.
I really, really like the cadence changes.
Yeah.
That was what I could get behind. Often...
You just bumped down the power
at least
then?
The one I'm thinking of was 2 minutes seated, low cadence at threshold, 1 minute standing, low cadence at threshold, 1 minute seated at high cadence, higher power, VO2 or something. So I usually often did the 2 minutes seated just under threshold. 1 minute standing a bit over, 1 minute seated at VO2, but I could keep doing it if I had the 2 minutes that were a bit more reasonable.
Yeah, I don't mind it, that session, but I clearly just did a shit lactate test because I could manage to do it. But there was a few times, even trying to do 12 or 16 minutes of that I was not able to hit that. But I don't mind the session, and I've actually given it to a few people I'm coaching, and they don't mind it. But I think it's, as with any session, it just completely depends how you set the zones.
Misprescribed.
Yeah.
I really liked going from a minute at like 50 RPM standing to seated at like 120 RPM and having to accelerate at an even higher power. I think that was like really
I think
valuable for the
I like that
legs.
as well because even just mentally knowing that you've got that in a race, like
Yeah.
that ability to change cadence and like I don't know, change the stimulus a little bit. Like always in a race, like there's that time where you like click down 2 gears and get out of the seat, and that's like part of it. But then like just thinking in your head, okay, I can also sit down and spin and still increase as well.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that in the
to do
back pocket.
both.
Okay, when you've got your efforts, no matter what the session, I guess you talked us through that St. Hilary loop. Are you someone that gets all the efforts done as soon as you can, or do you try and spread them out or save them to the end?
They're pretty spread out.
Yeah.
I would say.
I guess it's easy in Girona as well because you've got so many long climbs that you can fit into a loop. So by the time you do a loop with climb,
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
spreading that.
or a loop towards the coast. You have 10-minute climbs.
Yeah.
But they end up being either way. They pretty much end up being in the middle of the ride, unless there's one climb next to town. So if you could do a loop and then finish with your repeats and then be home in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Do you ever try to do anything like that, like stack them up at the end, or?
Not particularly all at the end. The really important intervals, like something that's harder for me and something that I lack and always need to work on, is like more like the muscle function, like the higher power.
Yeah.
So I just figure spread out is good because at least you get a set on fresher legs.
Yeah. Yeah, you get the recovery in between.
And like if the third set a little bit later in the ride is too hard to complete, then maybe then I would try, if I'm really just trying to do like a certain power and it's hard to hit, they're that challenging, then if it's too hard to do them later in the ride, then next time I'll know I'll do them a little bit earlier in the first half. But if I don't want to like skip on the quality of the intensity by just trying to do it at the end of the ride.
Yeah.
Even though that is a race scenario.
Yeah, but I think it's also important to not just simulate a race every training session. Like as you said, the purpose is getting that high power out.
Yeah. If I'm doing like 30-30s, I mean, now it's like we have so much, I don't find that I fade that much at the end of a ride just because of
Nutrition.
how much we talk about fueling.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to sacrifice the time at like 650 watts if I can do 30-30s like that. I want to do them at that intensity. I'm sure there's value to doing them at the end of the ride, and sometimes I do random sprints on the way home.
Yeah.
But I don't want to like have never hit 650 30-30s for 10 minutes, but just because I wanted to do them after hour 4.
Yeah.
I want the muscles to still have that intensity as well.
Yeah.
Higher.
Yeah, we've got the same coach at the moment, so I know he's probably not going to be prescribing what part of the ride to do it. But going back to the like general training plan, are you someone that sticks to the plan each day, or do you change it up?
I like to take, usually on a weekly picture, and try to figure. It depends how much time I have between races, but well, by what is prescribed, I like try to get an idea of what we're trying to accomplish that week, and I don't want to let 5 or 7 days go by without having completed all of the key workouts.
Yeah.
And I'll absolutely leave them exactly as prescribed if that works, but like I don't know, if I like have to go to the dentist and the appointment's at like 10 in the morning, then I'll like maybe switch it around so I can do the really important ride, like not try to start the important ride at like 1 p.m. when I'm like ready to lay in bed and take a nap, and like I mean I know we're professional and it's like supposed to take all our time, but I try to, if we have a family thing, or the kids have a holiday or something, or the weekend also, it's like
I think that's even more important for people listening at home. I have people I'm coaching that think that like something else will come up and it'll be crazy, and then they'll be completing a session on the trainer at 8:30 p.m. because that was the only time that they had to get it done. And then if you actually just take a step back, look at the big picture and go, the training is supposed to be making me get better.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's like at the point where you're under all this stress already, like not stress in terms of like you freaked out, but just body stress in terms of you've been out on your feet all day for whatever reason, you've been traveling for like unplanned or planned, you're not actually going to get the benefit from the training anyway on that day. So you're actually better off just rescheduling it if the goal is to improve, which for most people the goal is to improve rather than to hit the green on Training Peaks every day.
Definitely agree. My
Yeah.
Training Peaks is multicolored. But
You got the rainbow
I
Training
and
Peaks.
yeah, when I think about it, I switch them around so that the green
Yeah.
lights up. But
Yeah.
you know,
Makes sense.
just
Yeah.
I don't feel good about not doing the work. If
Yeah.
I'm too tired, I mean, yeah, if the travel was terrible or I'm too tired, then maybe I do need to do one day less of prescribed intervals. But
Yeah.
try to take it as a little bit of a bigger picture and
Yeah.
make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah.
That I have time to do it.
Okay, when you are training, are you solo or with a group? What's your preferred?
I go almost always solo, but that's more just because it's just another thing to like try to coordinate.
Yeah, to plan. You do
But
get
I
a mention on.
I mean, I don't train at strange hours or anything normally, but
You got to mention 2 episodes ago on the podcast with Tom's. There'll be a link to that popping up now.
Okay.
But yeah, Tom said he really likes training with you because you have to go back and listen to it for his exact words. But he said you're not someone that half wheels, and you're pretty happy to. Maybe he likes training with you because you can be flexible. So you're someone that'll just be able to.
he might need someone that's compliant with his workouts.
Yeah.
He does usually hit me up when he's in town, which is
Yeah.
not that often anymore.
Mm-hmm. So most of the time it's solo then.
But I like,
You like a group ride there?
yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Especially
not-
like a group ride.
Yeah, like a
ride
chop
where
off
there's-
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's really just not any of it in Girona, and like I've lived there before, you've lived there for years and years and years, but there's always been talk of, we want to start this regular bunch ride. Let's do
There's
this regular.
Wednesday Worlds now.
Yeah, okay.
It's only a year or two old.
Yeah. What's the
I've
setup
only
there?
done it once, but it's a proper group ride. It's like
What time of
exactly
day?
like 5:30 now because it's getting dark a bit early. But it was at
Okay.
I think they pushed it to 6:30 during the summer.
Evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After work.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of people.
Yeah.
It's not. I think during the summer they had. I'm sure August was a good month for them when less people were working, but they probably had like 30 at the height of it this
Yeah,
year.
okay.
I did it and there was like 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Couple pros, some ex-pros, some old guys. It's exactly like what I grew up doing.
Yeah.
My training plan used to be Tuesday and Thursday nights with my dad. There was a 2-hour ride that had like 45 minutes in the middle of it that was chop off until you die.
Yeah.
And I did like Tuesday, Thursday, and then there was always a longer group ride Saturday or Sunday. Like living in Atlanta.
It is
It's one of the weekday group rides.
It is how most people get into it, and yeah, it is.
It's almost all the training you need.
Yeah. it really is.
I got by before I knew anything about training for a couple of years, like using the group rides in Atlanta.
Yeah. Whenever, I'm not sure, there's not much science backing it because it's so hard to do, but any single time I get asked by any of my clients, can I do a group ride? I'm never ever going to say no to someone doing a group ride, even just like the mental benefit of
Great opportunity.
Of doing something with, other people, that competitive side of things without the pressure side. Like it's just, perfect training. When you're solo, are you listening to music or podcasts when you're training?
Usually podcasts.
Yeah. What do you go to besides this podcast, which you haven't listened to yet?
You've turned me on to this one.
We'll get you on it.
Let's see. I got a couple like financial oriented podcasts that I keep up with almost every day. I'm a big fan of Jim Cramer on Mad Money. He's on CNBC. in the US.
Yeah. Do you find you listen to mostly US podcasts?
Well, no, that's the other thing. I've kind of run through most of the episodes at this point, although they just started a new season. But it's called The Lazy Linguist. It's a Catalan and a British couple, and she's a trained language teacher, and she's teaching him Catalan. So I've listened to about their first 50 episodes of that to keep up with my
You Catalan.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've only just discovered it in the last few months, actually, and burned through the last 2 years of their episodes.
That's double productivity on your rides then. You get the training and
I feel like
learn
there's
some language.
a lot of productive podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're riding, you might only absorb parts of it. I'm not taking notes, unfortunately.
But
I need to go back and listen to some of the language. The news stuff is nice. It's easy to have in the background, and it pretty much keeps you up to date. But a lot of the stuff like the language takes a bit more focus, but it's exposure.
Yeah. All right. When it's raining, it doesn't happen too much in Girona, but you get a few rough days.
Mm-hmm.
Trainer, or do you go out and get it done? Or do you switch the days around?
It depends on the temperature. If there's not a lot else going on, would switch the days around. I don't even have a stationary trainer at home. I have rollers, like with the 3 rolling.
And do you ever do any sessions on them, or it's really just if you have to do?
I've spent as much as like 2 hours maybe, but it's only really if it's like a really hectic week. There's quite a few days of bad weather.
Yeah.
I mean, rain and less than 10 degrees in a row, and it's like there's like this little knob. I have 3 resistance settings on the rollers, and I can do like torque.
Yeah. Okay.
I can take my foot off and kick the knob to 3rd resistance, and then do like 60 RPM pretty hard for like intervals.
It's not quite a smart trainer then.
No, but I really like the rollers. I think you get.
Yeah.
I think you pedal. You pedal nice circles. You're really aware of how smooth you are.
Yeah.
And it gets me by. But I would rather, especially in the winter, when you have 2 months, a month, and a few weeks until your next race, it's like kind of use the weather to dictate the training plan almost.
Yeah.
And even if you do 4 days in a row instead of 3, it's like the next rainy block, you're not going to feel bad about the extra rest day.
Yeah.
If it's just winter training and you're not really honing it in for the next race.
Yeah. Okay, we've discussed nutrition a little bit. Are you someone that's ever done any low carb stuff, or have you always been big on the fueling?
I've been pretty big on fueling.
Yeah. Even before it was cool?
I had a coach.
Was there ever a time when you were talked into trying to be fat metabolized and not eat on rides?
Yeah, but I think I tried it when I had a new coach my first year on human-powered health. He wanted me to try it every few days in the winter to start the ride with any ride. Start it with an hour and a half, and then stop or eat a lot or stop for breakfast or something, and then keep training. And I'm pretty sure it affected my metabolism and kind of made me gain weight.
Okay.
I don't support it. All right. The only thing I'll do when I feel really healthy and well rested that I don't feel like screws up my metabolism is pre-breakfast, like 30 or 45 minutes on the trainer. It's almost always too hectic, and I'm like too short on sleep to do it now. But it almost always like gives me an extra gear, like if I do it for a week leading up to a really important block of races, and I can't really explain why, but I'm never really gassing myself, like 30 or 45 minutes pretty dang easy on the rollers, and then
Yeah,
go in
okay.
and have breakfast like with the family.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I have to wake up before them, so it's like I have to wake up at 6 a.m. so it doesn't.
Yeah.
But even if I just do it for a week, something happens, I'm sure. And
No,
and I
interesting.
don't.
Like, I'm just thinking anecdotally now. Like, I got in the habit of doing it at training camp
I really
January
like
this
it.
year. Not riding on the rollers, but I was just going for
Go
like,
out for a walk or something.
yeah, a walk or a swim or a jog or whatever, but just a little bit before breakfast to like kickstart the metabolism,
I
and
think
that's
it
not
does.
really like,
Yeah, it's not super taxing.
yeah,
And then I feel like after that, well, if it's a rest day, okay, I kind of like am in a bit more zombie mode the rest of the day if I'm really trying to lose weight or something. But even if I have a real training session after that, I feel like the carbs work better or something. And
yeah,
I don't,
okay.
it's like after not having them and then in training, I somehow get a boost or something from
Yeah.
every time I eat. And I
Interesting.
can't
I'm gonna have to
explain
research and see if there's actually anything done so far on that. I'm sure there is. We'll have to
it. I mean,
ask Carlos. Carlos will know.
yeah, obviously it can make you, it helped me lose weight as well.
Yeah.
But I would like something about instead of just eating all the time. Like if I took a gel in training, I might be feeling like I was kind of flat, like at the start of the ride after doing 45 minutes pre-breakfast, but like on the actual training ride after
Yeah.
breakfast, I'd feel a little bit flat. But if I like took a gel and did some intervals, I would be like,
Yeah. Okay.
holy crap, I'm like better than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
that's interesting. It'll be cool to see if there is that much on that, but I'm sure there'll be more done on it too. But it is something that's like maybe more common than people think. Is people doing that
Yeah,
little one on the rollers before
it
breakfast.
seems like one of the old school things that I still feel a benefit from.
Yeah.
A lot of the old habits seem pretty ridiculous and counterproductive, but
Yeah.
that's one I like.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go into rapid fire.
Okay.
So it's just a rapid fire would you rather, and it's be interesting to hear it from your perspective. So aero or lightweight?
Aero.
Disc brake or rim brake?
Well, I don't care.
Really?
Rim brake. I
That's
mean,
the first one of those.
disc brake is the standard.
Yeah, okay.
I felt the difference when I was still when like half the peloton had rim brakes, or when I was when
Yeah.
I don't know, when I had rim brakes and enough people had disc brakes to make a difference, and I was like, this is getting not unsafe. I need disc
Yeah,
brakes.
I had it both ways. I think with EF when we were one of the first on disc brakes, and then I ended up on a Asian team on rim brakes
Yeah.
again when we were the last ones on rim brakes, and I just
Yeah, that's not
as soon as
good.
conditions like today on
Yeah,
rim brakes
it's much
would be,
better in the wet roads.
would be so scary. Yeah.
Much less to worry about. It's
Yeah.
much better.
Tubeless or clincher tire or tubular?
Clincher,
Clincher. Yeah.
tubeless or not, clincher. They're both clinchers. It's either way is good.
Yeah. Saddlebag or handlebar bag?
Saddlebag,
Socks over or under leg warmers?
under leg warmers. You might not like the look when you look down, but if it's raining, you have to think about it like roof tiles.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
leg warmers are going over the sock or the shoe cover.
Yeah. Gloves or no gloves?
In training, no gloves, but my hands get really cold, so if it's cold, then I
Yeah.
always have long finger gloves.
Yeah. And
In racing too,
always.
yeah.
I saw you got stuck in that terrible situation where you started with the long gloves on and then it got...
Today?
No, the other day you started with the long gloves on and it got too warm, so you had to take them off, and then you just stuck with no gloves, but it was raining, so it's like the worst situation because it's like the highest probability of a crash and you've got no gloves on at
Yeah.
all. But
That's okay.
it happens. Heat training or altitude training?
Ooh. Heat training is much more accessible, and I feel good benefits from it. But yeah, I love that. Love altitude training too. It's just hard to do. Love it.
Yeah.
Out of reach to move
Yeah,
move
it's-
someplace new for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, especially with the family as well. Town sign sprints or come hunting?
Town sign.
Yeah. Early morning or pro hours? I guess we talked about this year. Maybe sometimes the early morning is your trainer if you're up before anyone else.
Yeah, that's very rare these days. But
What's your usual rollout time? Once the kids are at school, I guess.
10:30 is good.
Yeah.
One is dropped off at 9, one at 9:30, and then get home and probably have another snack and can be suited up to roll by 10:30.
Rico day or day off? Do you when you've got a easy
I
day?
like a little spin.
Oh yeah.
Unless I need to use a day to be productive often. But if I can sneak in a little spin first
Yep.
thing, that I feel much better the rest of the day.
Yeah. Pasta or rice?
Ooh, I'm pretty big on rice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We've been having so much rice
I like
porridge this
rice.
week.
Yeah.
Rice porridge
Well,
is
I was gonna say you're gonna have a lot of different types and flavors of rice, which
Yeah.
we have not been hitting.
Yeah,
But I haven't gotten tired of rice, the rice grain itself.
rice is popular now because it's low fiber compared to anything. It's not like pasta is super high fiber, but rice is very low. But we've ended up with rice porridge instead of oat porridge, which is nice once, but on the 6th day in a row on a tour.
For breakfast and post race when there's no other food around.
Breakfast and pre-race snack
Crap,
when
I
we
do
have
this
a
again.
when we have a 4-hour
Yeah,
transfer.
am I gonna eat rice pudding 3 times today?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Sweet or savory?
Savory, both.
Both.
During the ride?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, on your ride stop, you preferring sweet or savory? Or it depends.
Usually sweet in the pockets.
Yeah.
I never make a savory sandwich in my pockets.
Would you prefer to ride with a half wheeler or a wheel sucker?
Well, half wheeler, I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't. It's kind of like you just use their motivation to train a different way that day.
Yeah, train a little bit harder.
I don't often get. I don't really take it personally.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm gonna ride 40 watts more than normal when I
Okay.
ride with this guy, and I'm not gonna do it every day.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Squeaky disc brake or creaky bottom bracket?
Oh, squeaky disc brake is fine.
Yeah, you prefer that to the.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a structural problem.
Yeah.
It's just a noise.
And would you prefer to be hunger flat or completely dehydrated?
Oh, dehydrated for sure.
Okay.
You get some gains from sucking all the water out of your body.
Yeah.
Get some blood boost from that, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very good, but
Yeah.
it still feels better than being hunger flat.
Yeah. Okay, and then we'll go to the last question before we go to dinner. What is your best piece of advice? Might be something you've received, might just be something that you thought of that you want to pass on. You've been in the peloton for a long time now. You've got one more day in pro peloton. What is the best piece of advice you've got?
Being in the peloton specifically is to be like water.
Okay.
And that's how you move.
Yeah.
That's how you take advantage of the openings you can form to the inside of the group.
So path of least resistance kind of thing. Like,
Yeah. Without
just
too
have
much
to flow.
braking or without too much accelerating.
Yeah.
That's what I like to try to imagine.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get flushed all the way to the back.
Yeah.
No one leaves cracks for water to seep into anymore. They're always filled immediately by someone who's willing to accelerate and brake.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
There's a little less
it's an
flow and a
idea.
little bit more jumping around. No, I think that's really good advice. Actually, that's something that so many people ask about, especially when they come to Europe from Australia or from the US. It's really similar and then suddenly like positioning has never been a thing before, and then suddenly that is the main thing in terms of being in a situation where you can get results. So to think of it that way is a good way to think about it, because there is often no visible gap, and then if there is, suddenly it can pop up for a little bit, and if you're able to just flow into that.
one side of the group will just be moving almost imperceptibly, and you're just like, somehow you're going to get there.
Yeah.
If you wait.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to dinner, and we've got
Alright.
one stage to finish tomorrow after we finish our beer, and then a few more beers on the bus tomorrow. Cheers for that, and good luck
Cheers.
tomorrow. Cheers.
Thanks for the podcast.
Okay.
Cool.
Good stuff.
I like it. Do we have the dinner time?